They laughed at me when I left my cushy job to start a tech company from scratch. They said I was too young, too naive, that my AI wasn't worth the investment. But now, the tables have turned. My technology is the key to their survival, and they're the ones knocking on my door, begging me to invest. I didn't just build an AI, I built an empire. Aleena sat hunched over her laptop in the dimly lit corner of her startup's office, the only light coming from the glow of multiple monitors. Her fingers flew over the keyboard, each keystroke driven by years of meticulous research and a burning desire to right the wrongs she'd witnessed in the corporate world. She wasn't just coding, she was building a revolution. Once a quiet genius, at a prestigious tech company, Aleena had climbed the ranks, earning accolades for her brilliance in cybersecurity. But as the years passed, she grew disillusioned with the company's relentless pursuit of profit over ethics. The last straw came, when they intentionally turned a blind eye to the security flaws in a product that endangered millions of users. That's when she left. No job offers, no backup plan, just a belief that the world needed better. Now, she was the founder and lead developer of her own AI startup. Her team, a small but passionate group of developers, was cramped into a sleek office space that felt more like a battlefield than a place of innovation. Resources were thin, the pressure immense, but Aleena never wavered. This AI algorithm, her creation, was capable of preventing the most sophisticated cyber attacks in real time, and it was nearly perfect. Investors were knocking on the door, promising funds, but the stakes were higher than ever. The breakthrough was close, and so was the danger of losing everything to corporate vultures. Aleena had always trusted Daniel. He wasn't just the CEO of a multi-billion-dollar tech firm, he had been one of the earliest supporters of her vision. When she first pitched her AI startup to him, his enthusiasm had been palpable. He believed in her algorithm, the one that could revolutionize cybersecurity. And he made it clear that he wanted to be part of something monumental. He promised the resources and connections that her fledgling company so desperately needed. For months, it had been a symbiotic relationship. Daniel and his firm provided funding, while Aleena and her team worked tirelessly, pouring everything into the algorithm's refinement. The pressure was immense, but Aleena never questioned their alliance. In her mind, Daniel wasn't just an investor. He was a mentor. His belief in her was unwavering, and she thought his interests were aligned with hers. Build something that would change the world, and do so ethically. But as Aleena sat in the sleek, glass-walled conference room of his corporate headquarters, everything changed. She had expected a celebratory meeting. She was certain that with the algorithm nearing perfection, this would be the moment where the world would finally take notice of her work. The venture capitalists were ready. The buzz in the industry was growing louder, and all that was left was to finalize the partnership that would launch her company to global prominence. Instead, Daniel's expression was cold, his voice detached. "Why, need to talk about the terms of the agreement, Aleena," he said, sliding a contract across the table. "It's come to my attention that your early intellectual property, the tech you've developed, is rightfully part of our corporate assets." Now, Aleena blinked, the words slow to register in her mind. "What do you mean part of your corporate assets? I thought we had a clear understanding. The tech belongs to my startup. It's my work, my team's work." Daniel's gaze didn't waver. "The contract you signed for the funding rounds clearly states that anything developed during this period, using our money and resources, belongs to us. It's a standard clause, Aleena. It's all legal." Aleena's heart pounded in her chest. She had known about the IP clause, vaguely, but never thought it would come to this. The betrayal was so blatant, so clinical. She had thought that Daniel believed in the mission, that the partnership was built on mutual trust. Yet here he was, manipulating the fine print of a contract, claiming ownership of her original groundbreaking work. She fought to stay composed, but the sting of betrayal hit hard. All those late nights spent refining the code, all the sacrifices she made in her personal life, the countless hours spent building something that could change the world, gone in an instant. It was as if Daniel had never truly cared about her vision, only about the profits that her technology could generate for his corporation. The weight of it all pressed down on her, leaving her reeling. Her mind raced, but she couldn't escape the sinking feeling in her stomach. The worst part? She was caught off guard. She had trusted Daniel, trusted him like she had trusted no one else in her career. This wasn't just corporate greed. It was a personal betrayal. The line between business and friendship had blurred, for her, and now it felt like the rug had been yanked out from under her feet. Was she just another tool to him? A stepping stone for his company's success? Aleena's thoughts spiraled, and a deep sense of doubt crept in. Had all of this been for nothing? She had poured everything into this startup, given up so much. She had sacrificed friendships, family time, even parts of her own life for this one dream. Was it all a lie? Had Daniel been manipulating her from the beginning? Or was this just the brutal reality of the tech industry she'd chosen to work in? The emotional weight of the betrayal left her feeling hollow. It wasn't just her work being stolen. It was her trust, her belief in people, crumbling. Before her eyes, the bitterness of it all gnawed at her, and for the first time in years, Aleena wondered if she had made a terrible mistake. The moment Daniel dropped the bombshell about the intellectual property, Aleena's world seemed to shatter. Her heart raced, and she could feel the heat rising in her chest. The betrayal was crushing, but deep down, something within her refused to break. For all the pain she felt, there was a flicker of confidence, a quiet certainty that she had prepared for this very moment. As Daniel's voice droned on about ownership and the legalities of the situation, Aleena's mind raced. She had anticipated this. She had always known that corporate greed could make people forget their word, their honor. That's why, from the very beginning, she had taken extra precautions no one could detect. No one, except her. With a calmness that surprised even herself, Aleena raised her hand, signaling Daniel to pause. The room fell silent, the tension palpable. She could feel the weight of the moment pressing down on her, but she stood tall. "Daniel," she said, her voice steady, "you're forgetting one thing." He looked at her, his expression cold, but amused. "And what's that, Aleena?" Aleena's fingers hovered over the keyboard in front of her, and with a few quick taps, a new window popped up on the screen. "I never trusted you," she said, her gaze meeting his for the first time with full resolve. "And I made sure you'd never be able to take control of my work." She hit a key, and the room seemed to freeze as a sudden alert flashed on the screen in front of them. Alert. Unauthorized access detected. A loud beeping noise echoed through the conference room. Daniel's smirk faltered as the system began to lock down. "You..." Daniel started, eyes narrowing in confusion. "What did you do?" Aleena leaned back in her chair, letting a slight smile tug at the corner of her lips. "I embedded a backdoor into the AI. A failsafe, if you will. I knew what kind of person you were when I signed that contract. You don't get to steal my life's work, Daniel." His face turned pale as the system's warning escalated. Lines of code filled the screens around the room, each line more cryptic and complex than the last. It was a mess of cascading commands, encryption algorithms, and security protocols, all designed to lock anyone out, especially someone trying to hijack her technology. "You think you can just take it from me?" "Well, this system doesn't work for anyone who didn't build it," Aleena continued, her voice calm but laced with an undercurrent of triumph. "You'll never be able to fully control it, not without triggering a self-destruct sequence that will wipe all of your data. Everything you've just acquired. Gone." Daniel's face turned from confusion to frustration. He fumbled with his tablet, his fingers frantically trying to override the system. But nothing worked. His expensive suit felt too tight as the tension in the room mounted. Aleena had anticipated every move, every flaw in the contract, every weakness in their relationship. She had seen this coming long before Daniel even thought about pulling this corporate stunt. "It's beautiful, isn't it?" Aleena said, almost whispering, her eyes gleaming with satisfaction. "All the power in the world won't help you if you can't even access the one thing you've been chasing." The panic in Daniel's eyes deepened as he realized the extent of the situation. The backdoor Aleena had built was brilliant, elegant, and lethal. She had designed it so that it was impossible to trace back to her. But anyone who tried to take control of the AI without her authorization would trigger a catastrophic cascade of failures. It would leave them with nothing but a shattered system, unable to function. Aleena wasn't just playing defense. She had built her leverage from day one. This wasn't the first betrayal she'd seen in her career, and it wouldn't be the last. She had been patient, calculating, and always thinking 2 steps ahead. "Now," she said softly, standing up and walking toward him. "Let's see how far you're willing to push this, because you're not getting my work. Not today. Not ever." In that moment, Aleena knew she had regained control, not just over her technology, but over her future. The game had changed, and she was no longer the prey. She was the predator. Aleena's mind was sharp and clear as she walked into the sleek, glass-walled conference room for the second time. Daniel thought he had won. He had believed that the legal claim to her work was his ticket to control, to riches. But now, armed with the evidence she had meticulously gathered, it was time for him to see just how wrong he was. The tension in the room was suffocating as she slid a folder across the table to Daniel. His eyes flickered to the contents, but he didn't open it immediately. Instead, he leaned back in his chair, his fingers drumming on the tabletop, trying to maintain the upper hand. Aleena, however, wasn't intimidated. She had already taken the first step in the game. She had control of the situation, and she knew it. "Daniel," she began, her voice cool but unwavering, "you've been playing a dangerous game, one, that's about to blow up in your face." He sneered, clearly trying to maintain his composure. "You really think you can take me down, Aleena? You're out of your depth." Aleena didn't flinch. "I'm not the one who's out of my depth," she replied. "You are. And here's why." She tapped the folder again, urging him to open it. Slowly, Daniel complied, flipping it open to reveal a series of documents detailing the terms of their initial agreement, along with a hidden clause that no one had noticed until now. "This contract," she said, "it's got a few holes you missed. If you proceed with your claim to the IP, you'll be in direct violation of both federal law and industry regulations regarding intellectual property theft. Not only will you lose everything, but your company will be dragged into costly public litigation that could take years to settle and destroy your reputation in the process." She watched as his expression shifted, the confidence in his eyes replaced by the slightest flicker of doubt. He had underestimated her, thinking she was just a coder, a startup founder. No one with the experience or knowledge to challenge him on the legal and financial fronts. But Aleena wasn't just a coder. She had worked for years at top firms, analyzing corporate contracts, understanding the intricacies of law and business. She had already consulted with legal experts, and the documents in front of Daniel were the proof he needed to realize the precarious position he was now in. "I'm giving you one option, Daniel," Aleena continued, her voice gaining strength with each word. "We make a new deal. My company retains full control of the technology, and you get a strategic partnership with us, along with exclusive rights to distribute the AI within specific markets. You'll get your profits, but you'll have to play by my rules now." Daniel opened his mouth to protest, but Aleena wasn't finished. "If you try to take my work again, I'll make sure the media gets a hold of these documents. We'll go public with your actions, and I'll use every connection I have to make sure. Your name is dragged through the mud. Do you really want that kind of exposure?" For a moment, the room was silent. Daniel's fingers stopped drumming on the table as he processed what was happening. His mind raced as he realized the enormity of his mistake. He had assumed that Aleena's passion for her work would make her an easy target. But now it was clear. She had outplayed him. She had calculated every move, planned every detail, and was now holding the keys to his downfall. The power had shifted. Aleena was no longer a pawn in his game. She was the one calling the shots. Daniel had no choice but to agree to her terms, knowing full well that she was the one in control now. "I'll have my legal team draw up the new agreement," Daniel finally muttered, defeated. Aleena stood, her posture straight and commanding. "Good, but remember this. Never underestimate someone who has nothing left to lose and everything to gain." As she walked out of the room, she couldn't help but feel a sense of satisfaction. She had turned the tables, not through brute force, but through intelligence, foresight, and the quiet confidence of someone who knew exactly what they were capable of. The fight wasn't over, but Aleena had just secured her place at the table, and this time, she was in charge. The soft hum of the office was a welcome contrast to the storm that had brewed only days earlier. Aleena sat at her desk, looking out over the cityscape through the glass wall of her corner office. The sunlight caught the edge of her reflection in the window, casting a long shadow behind her. A quiet sense of triumph had settled within her. But it wasn't just the financial victory that brought her peace. It was something deeper. She had won, yes, but more importantly, she had remained true to herself. Her company was now recognized as one of the most innovative in the tech space. The AI system she had built was being adopted by high-profile organizations, and venture capitalists who had once doubted her vision were now clamoring for a seat at the table. But despite the growing success, Aleena knew she had done it on her own terms. The technology was hers to control, and she had ensured that her company remained the heart of innovation, not some corporate giant looking to profit from it. As she leaned back in her chair, Aleena's thoughts drifted back to the challenges she had faced: the betrayal, the sleepless nights, the constant weight of responsibility. Success had come at a steep emotional cost. She had lost friends, sacrificed personal time, and even questioned her own choices. But in the end, it had all been worth it. "It wasn't easy," she murmured to herself, her fingers idly tapping the desk. "But nothing worth fighting forever is." Aleena had learned to trust her instincts and protect what she had built. And more importantly, she had learned that success meant more than just the bottom line. It meant standing firm in your values and ensuring that the technology you create serves humanity, not the corporate interests that seek to control it. The journey had been long, and the fight wasn't over. But Aleena knew she was ready for whatever came next. Her integrity was intact, and her vision remained unwavering. The world was hers to shape, and she would do it on her terms.